So you've finally gotten tired of Microsoft's crap, or you've gotten tired of Apple's crap, and you're ready to switch from your operating system to Linux. First off, welcome. There's a lot of people in the Linux community that are more than happy to help you make this change. But I am very happy that you have chosen this video as your first introduction to Linux. In this video, we are going to be using Linux Mint, and we're going to be installing it in a virtual machine so that you can test it before you're sure that you want to make that switch. I know a lot of people come into this thinking, I'm really tired of this. I want to get rid of Windows now. But let me tell you, for the love of God, please do not replace your operating system with any version of Linux before you test it. You may go into it thinking that it's going to be a really cool experience. And if you don't have a lot of time to learn the command line interface or how to mess with your settings, it may not be for you. And if you want to switch back to Windows, it may be too late. So we're going to do this on a virtual machine. I will be using Virtual Machineware Player in this video. I already have VMware Pro installed, but you probably don't want to use $200 to buy a license key so that you can test Linux. VMware Player is completely free. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you need to install the ISO for Linux Mint. So let's go ahead and do that. You can use this on any browser. I'm going to use Mullvad just because that's my favorite browser as of this time. And we're going to look up Linux Mint download ISO. And that's all you have to do. Hit enter. Come over to where it says download Linux Mint. Depending on what search engine you're using, you may see things that say advertisement or anything of the sort, like sponsored on the side of these. Scroll down all of those, for instance, Bing, and click on the first one that does not say sponsored or advertisement. So we're going to click download Linux Mint 21.3. This is called Linux Mint Virginia. This is the long-term support version. There are beta versions that you can use, however, they're highly unstable and they're not supported for long. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you get the pop-up every once in a while on your Windows machine that says update and restart or update and shut down, that installs Windows updates. When you run out of support, you don't get those updates anymore. So if you install a beta version, you may not get updates for your version of Mint for long. Now, as you can see, we have 4 versions of Linux Mint. Don't let this overwhelm you. You have Cinnamon Edition, Mate Edition, XFCE Edition, and Cinnamon Edge Edition. So here's basically what this is. There are more modern versions of the desktop environment, and there are older versions and more supportive versions of the desktop environment. The most robust and sleek one that we have is Cinnamon Edge. It's support for the most modern hardware. We're not going to be using that in this video. And then you have Cinnamon and Mate, which are supposed to look better. I'm going to let you know now. It doesn't matter which one you want to use. This is all personal preference. Just because you're using Cinnamon doesn't mean that you are more superior to people that use XFCE. As a matter of fact, XFCE is my favorite desktop environment. And that is because I just like the look of it. I've been using it for years. That doesn't make me less superior than people that use more modern desktop environments. And what is a desktop environment? It's just the way that it looks. So this is what your start menu would look like on Cinnamon, and this is what it would look like on Mate, and this is what it would look like on XFCE. Doesn't really look like there's much of a difference thus there. And there's really not when it comes to Mint. So to be the most inclusive and use the one that uses the least resources, I'm going to be downloading XFCE Edition. You can download anything you want, but if you're following along word for word, I suggest you install XFCE. So let's go ahead and download XFCE Edition. And you don't have to worry about any of this stuff. This is the size of the ISO, and that's what you're going to use to boot onto the operating system. Ignore that. And then you can come down here to where it says locations and mirrors. What does that mean? Well, if you're in Canada, you'll want to use the ones that say location Canada. If you're in the USA, you'll want to use the one that say location USA, and you can use any of these. But there's a lot for different countries: Belarus, Belgium, Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Germany, Greece, so on and so forth. There's a lot. And all that this means is that these are different websites that host the download link to get that ISO. So because I'm in the USA, I'm just going to use advancedhosters.com, although I can use any of these. And I'm going to save this file. We're not going to open it. So let me save that to my downloads folder. and it shouldn't take very long. It's a relatively small ISO. Your internet connection may be slower than mine. All that means is it's going to take you a little longer to download the ISO. I'm going to go ahead and open up the task manager really quick. So let's go ahead and do that. And you'll want to go over to where it says performance. Now, on Windows 10 or earlier versions, it may look a little different, but it'll say the same thing. So let's click on performance and let's go ahead and minimize that. So while it's installing Mint, the next thing that we have to install is VMware Player. So we see that Linux Mint is done downloading. We're not going to touch that for now. Let's go to VMware Player, search that up, and the one here is VMware Workstation Player. If it says a VMware Workstation Pro, that's not the one that you want. So let's click Player, and it'll show you an overview, comparisons, FAQs. None of that matters. Let's look for where we can download VMware Player. So we have related products. Okay, we're going to have to navigate a little bit because I'm used to installing Pro. At the very top, VMware Workstation Player, download for free. And that's the one you're going to want. So let's go ahead and download it for free. See the next page that it takes us to. And it will show us the download link. And we will want to click the latest version and click on the download link on one of the versions below. Go to downloads and download now. So what's the difference here? We have VMware Workstation 17.5 for Linux. If you're on Windows, you don't want that one. And then you have the one for Windows. So let's do the Windows 64-bit operating systems. Let's download now. And we're going to save the file again. And we'll save it in our downloads. Sure. Why not? And this will install very quickly because they have a very nice website, a lot of network support. And you will go ahead and open this one. So let's open VMware Player. And it'll take a few seconds, but it will open up. Don't worry about that. Just be a little patient, give it some time, and we'll make our way through this. And it should open any second. I'm going to move the task manager to my other monitor, so you guys won't see it for a second, but I'm going to move it over here until we're ready to use it, just so that I can see it out of the corner of my eye. And here we go. We have the user access control prompt. If you're not familiar with what this is, just click yes. Don't have to worry about that. And as you can see, there was a little box, and now there's an icon down here. In a few seconds, it will show the screen that will let you install VMware Player. Now, if you really want VMware Pro, the instructions are going to be different. I may do a video on how to download VMware Pro in the future, but we're not doing that in this episode. So all you have to do here, you don't even have to read any of this. Just click Next. I accept the terms in the license agreement. Click Next. Add VMware Workstation Console Tools to System Path. You can leave that enabled. We're not going to use it, but it's not going to hurt anything. So we'll click Next again. Go ahead and unclick Join the VMware Customer Experience Improvement Program. That doesn't really affect what we're going to do here, but I don't like giving my software or hardware information to anybody. It's personal preference. You can leave it ticked if you want to. I'm not going to. And check for product updates on startup if you want to have the most up-to-date version of VMware Player, which I'm assuming you do. Go ahead and leave that one checked, and we'll click Next. And we're going to save it on the desktop, but not in the Start Menu Programs folder. Click Next, click Install. It'll take a little bit of time to install the operating system, and while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and minimize the browser. Let's move that over here, and I want to move those two things that we downloaded to the desktop. So let's click on the downloads arrow here. On most browsers it looks the same. Let's click downloads, and over here next to the name of the file, we're going to click, it's doing things in the background which keeps turning that off. We're going to click the file or folder icon next to the name, move that over here, and I want to move Linux Mint's ISO to the desktop. Let's go ahead and now minimize this. We don't need that anymore. And it has in the background completed installation. We're not going to use a license here. We don't have one. So let's go ahead and click Finish. And it shouldn't open until you open it manually. So let's go ahead and lower our browser, and we're going to double click VMware Workstation 17 Player. Remember, because of the way that we did it, it saved it to the desktop. So go ahead and double click that. Wait for that to open. Shouldn't take more than a few seconds. It'll ask you for a license key again for commercial use. This isn't for commercial use. You're not part of a business. This is personal use. So for free with non-commercial use. Go ahead and click continue. Ignore that. Click finish. And you have a cool little window over here. So you have some options. You don't have to worry about anything right now other than create a new virtual machine. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And you have three options. We're going to click the one that says installer disk image file. So you'll do that, and you'll want to click browse. All you have to do here, because we moved it out of the downloads folder to the desktop, we just click desktop, and there it is. If you didn't move it out of your downloads folder, it will be in downloads, but it's not here. So let's go ahead and click open. And it says it can't detect which operating system is on the disk image. It doesn't detect all of the Linux operating systems, it detects the parent operating systems. So that's what we're going to use. Let's click next. It's going to ask what operating system it is. When it says guest operating system, that is the operating system it's going to use in the virtual machine. If you're using a Windows ISO, you click Microsoft Windows. If you're using Mac or anything that's not Linux, you click Other. However, we're going to use Linux. Ubuntu 64-bit is already selected for us. That is the parent OS of Linux Mint, so that's what we're going to use. But there are other options here. Just going to show you. I'm not going to go through all of them. It may be overwhelming for you. Don't worry about it. If Ubuntu 64-bit is not shown in your version, click on this box. Scroll down until you see Ubuntu 64-bit. Because the operating system we downloaded is 64-bit, don't click on Ubuntu. That's an older version, and that's not going to work. So let's do 64-bit. Let's click next. You can name your virtual machine here. You name it anything you want. So I'm just going to name it Linux Mint. And location, leave that alone. Don't worry about it. Click next. It's going to ask for your maximum disk size. Now, you can use this on 20 gigs. However, you're not going to be able to use this for daily use on 20 gigs. Most computers these days have around 500 gigabytes. So to see how many gigabytes of memory that you have, or of hard disk space, let's see, what is a good way to pull this up? Okay, we'll take a look at that later. Hard disk partitions. Okay, so this is one way to look at it. So on this machine, ignore all of these numbers. This is just a bunch of random stuff. The highest one you want to look at is the one with the one letter. This one is C on this computer. It may be different for yours, but in the vast majority of cases, it's going to be C. So ignore all the partitions. That's not important. Go over to where it says capacity, and this says 1,858 gigabytes. That's rounded up to be a 2 terabyte hard drive. But some of the gigabytes are used for system processes, so it doesn't show up. Again, not important. So we know how many gigabytes it has. This will be different for you. If you have less than 500 gigs, go ahead and set it to use 40 gigabytes of hard drive space. If you have more than 500 gigs, go ahead and set it for 80 gigabytes. And that's what we're going to do here. And I'm going to store the virtual disk as a single file. That's personal preference. You can use either one. Select whichever one you want. It doesn't change a thing. If you want to leave it how it is, because it will try to store it as multiple files, that's fine. So let's click next. And it's going to show your hardware information here. Now this is where the task manager is going to come into play. For your virtual machine, let's go ahead and move task manager over here. And let's click on customize hardware. The things we're going to change here are the processors. So we have 4,096 megabytes of RAM. Don't worry about that. Come over to where it says memory, and it'll show you how many gigs you have. What I recommend is use half of the gigabytes of your computer on your virtual machine. So if you have an 8 gigabyte computer, use 4 gigs, and in that case, leave it just as it is. If you're going to use a 16 gigabyte computer, then we would change it to 8192. So that's how it is. That's just the best way to do it. If you have 32 gigs like me, I'm going to put 16,354. 16,354 megabytes. But since I'm trying to be more inclusive, let's just use an 8 gigabyte hard drive or 8 gigabytes of RAM. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you don't put it any more than half of the total available memory on your computer, because then your actual host computer, the one you're using right now, will become very slow. And then it asks for processors. Linux does not use a lot of processing power, and we're not using it for gaming in this video. I will do a gaming on Linux video in the future, but right now, this is just installing Linux. So it asks for the number of processor cores. Here's the way that I do this, because if you go to CPU in your task manager, it doesn't show how many cores it has. Well, I guess it does, it has 6. But there's a better way to do this, and it's very simple. If you bought your computer before 2017, change the number of processor cores to 1. If you bought your computer in 2017 or later, so 2023, 2022, just go ahead and change it to 2 processor cores. That's it. We'll go ahead and we will click close. And it says ready to create virtual machine. Click finish. And let's go ahead and click power on. It's going to be the green arrow right up here. So let's go ahead and do that. And I am going to maximize this window. And it's going to open the VMware starting prompt. And oh my god, there's a bunch of menus here. Start Linux Mint. Start Linux Mint in compatibility mode. OEM install. Calm down. Let it do its thing. You don't even have to touch it. In the very start of this, it will do everything for you if you don't want to touch any of these menus. Just let it roll. It will only take 10 seconds and it'll start booting for you. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit Control, Alt, and Enter. That didn't work. Control, Alt, Enter. There you go. Okay. Now what does that do? That maximizes the virtual machine window, so it gets rid of your top and bottom borders, and you can see everything clearly. And we can even get rid of the player menu by clicking Hide Command Bar. And to bring it back up, just move your mouse up here, and it'll pop up once again. If you want to keep it pinned, click Always Show Command Bar, but I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. We're not going to need it from this point on. Now you may be thinking, well, this window is very small. How do I make it bigger? We'll get to that. So this is your desktop environment. This is XFCE. Looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Now, you can install Linux Mint or you can just use it for testing. However, if you don't install Linux Mint and you go on, say, Firefox, and you sign into YouTube and you start looking at a lot of videos, everything that you do here will be gone when you shut down your computer. It will get rid of all the changes that you made. So we're going to go ahead and install Linux Mint. This is not going to get rid of the operating system on your main computer, also known as your host machine, because we are using a virtual machine. It's only going to use as much memory and as much hard disk space as you gave it. So let's go ahead and double click Install Linux Mint, and it'll bring up the installation menu. Give it a few seconds. Remember that we are using this inclusively for older hardware. Your specs might be higher, which means that this might run faster. And the install menu is available. This usually does a really good job of guessing what language and what country you're from based on the hardware information of your host machine. So if you are a different language, then just come over here and select it. This has support for a lot of different languages, as you can see. I'm going to choose English because I choose English. I speak English. Could speak Finnish if I wanted to, or Suomensk, but I'm going to stick with English. So let's click Continue. It says you may wish to read the release notes. Don't worry about that. Here's your keyboard layout. If you have a different keyboard, like English Nigeria, come over here and select that. But I'm from the United States. I have a US keyboard, so we're going to use English US and English US. Click Continue. And we have to wait for the next screen. It only takes a few seconds, and it'll ask you to install multimedia codecs. It's required to play some video formats and properly render some websites. Go ahead and install this, especially on your virtual machine, because installing this and preparing those Ubuntu drivers will actually go ahead and put this in full screen mode so it's easier to see. But it will also install some other things in the background, and I think it also enables compatibility, because a lot of hosting services like Netflix and Amazon require compatibility layers for legal reasons, so that will help you install those as well. And it's going to say erase the disk and install Linux Mint. Remember, this is your guest machine. It will erase the disk, but only as much of the disk as you gave it. Once you get out of this operating system, you close down VMware Player, you get that hard disk space back. But this is how much you allocated to it. So let's go ahead and click install now. We're going to erase everything from the virtual disk that we created. And now it's going to ask you to set up your machine. Write the changes to disk? Yes, you do want to write the changes, so go ahead and click continue. And now it's going to ask where you are. Don't go putting in something like Silicon Valley, California. This is more of asking what time zone you're in. I'm on Eastern Standard Time, so this works fine for me. If you're in any of these countries or any of these provinces and where it's shown in green, you're going to want to stay there. So let's go ahead and click continue. And now it'll ask you to set up your name. So of course I'm going to set up my internet name. I'm going to put Jonathan Lancaster. Go ahead and put your your full first and last name here, or if you don't want to, just put something like, you know what, Barack Obama. Why not? Your computer's name, Barack Virtual Machine. You can change this to anything you want. So let's just go ahead and put Barack's mainframe. But it's saying may only contain letters, digits, hyphens, and dots. You cannot put spaces and you cannot put commas. So a good workaround for that, let's just put Barack's dash mainframe. Now this is just saying it can't start or end with a hyphen. If this was all you were going to put, it's not going to work. But you put Barack's Barack's PC, and you're good to go. So we're going to put Barack's mainframe, pick a username, put any username you want, but just put a first name. And no capitals. If you put capitals in this, it will say it must start with a lowercase letter. So we'll just go ahead and put Barack. Choose a very super secret password. Of course, in this password, I'm going to put password because it's a virtual machine. It will show it's a weak password. This is a very rudimentary way to do your password, but if you put more letters and you put numbers and symbols, it'll say it's a good password, although 8 characters I don't believe is a good password anyway. But for your first virtual machine, password will be fine. I don't think anybody's going to break into your home, put a gun to your head and make you type password into your computer. So we'll go ahead and click require my password to log on. And it says encrypt my home folder. Don't worry about it. We're not doing that for a first virtual machine. Click continue, and it will install the operating system for you. But here's something different from Linux and Windows. If you know, on Windows, when you install the operating system, all you can do is sit back, put your hands behind your bed, maybe scroll through iFunny, whatever people do on their phones these days. I'm not exactly a cool kid. But on Linux, and this is the case for most Linux distributions, not all of them, but for most of them, you can do whatever you want. Go ahead and move this over here. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to see it. Minimize it. Go ahead and open Firefox. Wait for that to open, and it will take longer because you're installing the whole operating system from your ISO to your computer. So we'll wait for that to open. Cool. Let's go ahead and click YouTube. Now this comes with Firefox by default, so that's the browser that we're using. However, I will show you how to install a different browser before we end the video. So I'm on YouTube. Let's not sign in. Go ahead and put myself a headphone set on. And I'm going to type in some ordinary gamers Linux. I installed the hardest system known to man. Oh boy, alright.
With Fargo, the new virtual.
I don't feel like listening to an ad. It'll stutter a little bit in the very beginning because it's installing the whole OS. But click skip. go ahead and
Brilliant.
move
Do you ever
him
watch
to
one of these videos
kinda
and think,
quiet,
dang, I wish I
watch a
could learn
video.
exactly what you're talking about?
Do that. Come over here, play a nice game like Gangster Nation. Go ahead and sign yourself up. This is a nice text-based crime RPG, or maybe you don't like the graphics on this. You could play Torn.com. You can sign in on Torn. Play some Torn while you wait. I would not try to install Steam and play a Steam game while you wait because, one, this is insanely quick, and two, keep in mind, all the stuff that you install, as a matter of fact, all of the changes that you make to browsers and things like that, those are going to be gone when you restart the computer. So let's go ahead and close that. Let's pull up our install. It will be down here. And as you can see, it's already almost done copying the files, and installing the files and programs itself will not take nearly as long. So in the meantime, what if you want to create a file? We don't have Word on Linux, but one thing we do have is an open source suite of Office tools which is completely free. And it looks relatively the same. So if I want to go over here to pull up my little search menu, we can type in LibreOffice, or we could just type in Libre and it'll show the entire Libre suite. So you've got LibreOffice Base. This is for databases. That's kind of like Microsoft Access, I think. You get LibreOffice Calculator, Draw, Impress, that's more like PowerPoint, Math, but we're going to use LibreOffice Writer. And we're going to use that while we are installing our operating system. So welcome to Linux's Microsoft Office. Go ahead and pull that up. And it has 223 tips. It'll show a tip of the day. If you don't want to see this, just come over here and click Show Tips on Startup to get rid of that. Let's click OK. It'll say we're running it for the first time. Do you want to learn what's new? If you think you're going to be using Microsoft Word's equivalent for Linux a lot, you can go ahead and click Release Notes, and it'll open it in a browser. But for the sake of this, I'm not going to do that. So let's get rid of that. Let's move this over to the very edge of this screen, and it will take up half of the screen, just like it does in Windows. And I'm going to make myself a little project while we wait. Go ahead and click up here for the header. Okay, that's weird. It's not actually letting me access the header. See, even I don't know everything. But I also don't use LibreOffice very often, or Word for that matter, as you don't need to. Alright, fine. I'll come over here and I will click, let's see, let's click Align Center, My Very Awesome and Cool Report. Come down here, assign it to the left, and it will have hotkeys for this as well. So Control L is left, Control R is right. I am typing on the left side of my screen. Come down here, Control R. I am now typing on the right side of my screen. Want to insert an image? Let's go get ourselves an image from Firefox. Let's type in Aaron Black wallpaper. If you know, you know. Let's get one that doesn't look really cringe. That one looks okay. I wonder if you could just copy this and paste it. Let's go copy. Hit Control V. There you go. Now you have a really cool image of Aaron Black in your report. Why not? Let's scroll down. Let's hit Control L. Okay, I don't know why it's bringing the picture with it. I would prefer that it doesn't. Let's drag it up. There we go. This is a really cool picture of Aaron Black. Again, if you know, you know. And again, we can't save this because it's all going to be gone once the operating system is finished installing. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Don't Save. And it's copying the installation logs, which means it's almost done. And there you go. Installation has finished. You can continue testing Linux Mint now, but until you restart the computer, all changes you make or documents you save will not be preserved. So let's go ahead and click Restart Now. There we go. It's going to restart the virtual machine, not your whole computer. And we're going to go ahead and boot into Linux Mint. says please remove the installation medium, then press enter. I believe VMware does this for you, so all you have to do is press enter, and it should boot into Mint for you. Let's see. As you can see, it's showing the hyphen again. It's blinking. Don't panic. That just means that it's thinking. And those menus doesn't matter. Shows up on my main computer, shows up on my laptop, shows up on my grandfather's 2009 Hewlett-Packard Pro. Just wait for this to finish. And now you have yourself Barock's mainframe. So let's go ahead and hang on a second. I need to get that to show up full screen. There we go. Very nice. What password did I put for this? It's a very good question. Oh yeah, password. There you go. Just sign yourself in. Give it a few seconds. It'll show this because I'm connected to Ethernet. And now you have Welcome to Linux Mint. You're probably going to want to read through this the first time. Let's go ahead and click Let's Go. It'll show you how to change things about your operating system. Desktop colors, drivers, update managers. Don't worry about any of that right now. Click Documentation. You can read through that. Click Help. IRC Chat Room. I recommend you don't use IRC unless you're using a VPN. If you don't know what in the hell that means, don't worry about it. And you can contribute and make some donations or advertise it or whatever you want to do. Let's go ahead and click to turn off Show This dialog at startup. And we'll go ahead and open Firefox. So remember, if you don't want to use Firefox and you want to install a new browser, what do? Well, let's say that you're switching from Windows and you want Google Chrome. I highly recommend you don't use Google Chrome because the vast majority of the Linux community only uses privacy-based programs or at least open source programs. But if you really want to use Google Chrome, you can. So let's go over here, close these two tabs, and simply just type in install Google Chrome on Linux Mint. That's all you have to do. The name of your operating system, the name of your browser, install your browser on your operating system. And let's go over to install Chrome on Linux Mint, easy step-by-step guide. So let's see, downloading the key for Chrome. Now you're going to see a lot of stuff here. What in the heck does that mean? Don't worry, I got you. First, we're going to want to click on the bottom left to where your start menu would be in Windows, and we're going to type in terminal. And oh, you've got the very scary hacker mainframe thing open. Don't worry about it. Move it somewhere to where you can see what you're reading from the browser. All you have to do, well, let's go ahead and right click on the top and click always on top. Because if you don't do that and you try to scroll through the web page, this is going to minimize. So make sure it's set to always on top. Again, right click towards the name and just click always on top. So what the heck do you do here? Oh my god, this is very scary. Copy. Right click after where it says the name of your machine. Paste. Press enter. Type the name or the password of your computer. Apt key is deprecated. Okay. So this one's not going to work. That's fine. You're going to stumble into things like that. Let's install Google Chrome on Linux Mint the easy way. Download and import the signed key. Copy this. Drag your mouse over all of that. That may actually be two different commands. Let me check. Yes, it is. Okay. So all you have to do, come over here, copy one of those. There is a very easy way to actually run both in the same command, but you probably already learned a lot today and I don't want to overwhelm you. So paste that first command, hit enter. Didn't do anything. It's not going to show anything. Come over here to where it says sudo install, copy all of the same line, click paste. Did it do anything? Do I have Google Chrome? No, I do not. Notice that neither command produces any output. Now you need to add the repository. So what do you do here? Say it with me. Copy the whole thing, triple click, come over here anywhere in it. 1, 2, 3. Copy, right click, paste, enter. run system update. And this is a command you're going to have to get familiar with if you're going to use Linux for any amount of time. So we're not going to type this, or we're not going to copy this, we're going to type it in. So let's do sudo apt update. And it's showing a bunch of stuff that you don't even need to read. Just let it do what it's doing. It says 48 packages can be upgraded. So how do you upgrade that? Come over here, sudo apt, type it right first of all, upgrade. And it says, after this operation, a bunch of additional disk space will be used. That's a lot of disk space. That's a lot of stuff I don't recognize. Capital Y, enter. And it'll install all of it in the background. You don't need to go through any annoying boxes in your way. Just hit enter, let it do it while it's in the background. Now, installing this much from your command line will take a little bit of time, but it's very intuitive, doesn't get in your way. You can minimize this while it downloads. You don't need to click on a program, go through the installing wizard, and take like 30 seconds clicking a bunch of random buttons and having to read stuff. Just do that. Sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade. That's all you have to do. So we'll give this the time that it needs. It's almost done. Already at 88%. 93%. 99%. And okay, don't make me look like an idiot now. Come on. I'm trying not to do any editing in these videos so that you guys can stay on track. But if it starts installing something that requires a lot of space, then it's going to freeze. And what does that mean? Oh my god, is it not working? No. It's simply installing something in the background that you can't see. And when that's done, it's all updated, it's all upgraded, and that means that every program that had an update that you didn't install now has an update that you did install. It's configuring stuff, and it's done. And if you don't want to see all of this jumbled nonsense, type in one word, clear. And it's gone. Now you can install Google Chrome on Linux Mint. Copy, paste, enter. 339 megs of disk space will be used. Absolutely. I want to put some super cool spyware on my computer. I'm just kidding. You can use whatever browser you want. A lot of people, if you stick with Linux and make some posts for Linux help, a lot of people are going to pick with you for using things like Google Chrome. But use whatever you want. Don't let people tell you not to use it if you really want to use it. Although I don't recommend it. But don't listen to me. Now it's installed. Just come over here. Click your start menu. Google Chrome. Enter. Welcome to Google Chrome. Want to make it the default browser? Absolutely not. Send usage statistics and crash reports? Absolutely not. I want you to have as little information as possible. And I have Google Chrome. Don't sign in. There it is. Type in anything you want. YouTube.com. There you go. You got YouTube. And honestly, that's one of the harder installs for a browser I've had. Or at least one of the longer ones. I don't know why it took a bunch of that nonsense myself. So let's say we want to install Firefox. Say for whatever reason, your Linux distro doesn't come with Firefox. Install Firefox on Linux Mint. Okay, it updated Firefox in the background, so we're going to have to restart it. Click the restart button. That's all you have to do. Install Firefox on Linux Mint. How to install Mozilla Internet Browser. And you go through this. Apt install Firefox. The vast majority of things to install on your computer are that easy. Apt install Firefox. They're already there. Apt remove Firefox. Let's go ahead and remove Firefox. Sure. Do we have Firefox anymore? I don't know. Let's move this. Close the browser. Do I have it? We don't have it. No such file or directory. Apt install Firefox. And it installs for you. Progress 2080 done. Look at that. You have Firefox again. And you have learned how to run Linux Mint in a virtual machine. So now, if you decide you don't want to use Linux, or maybe you want to use a different Linux distro, or something else, you can now exit out of the virtual machine, go ahead and come up here, click the giant X, go ahead and click power off, and it'll shut down the Linux machine, and you still have beautiful, beautiful Windows. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it, and I may even do some more advanced videos for learning Linux as well. Probably on that same Linux Mint machine. If not, I'll probably use Debian. But I'll probably stick with Linux Mint. If you guys enjoyed, please let me know in the comments section. If you guys had an installation problem while you were going through this, let me know in the comments, and I will do my best to help you as best as I can. I am the Netrunner, and I will see you guys in the next video.